Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Hudson Public Works Committee meeting. We are here on Monday evening, January 13th, 2025. First item is to call the roll. Mike Kennedy.
Here.
Sarah Brook, who is not present this evening, excused. Joy Knudsen is who I am, excuse me. I usually introduce myself first. And then also introduce our staff that's here with us tonight. To my left is Aaron McPhee Anderson, who is the City of Hudson engineer. And to my right is Michael Mraz, who is the Director of Public Works and Parks within our city, and the executive assistant for that department as well. Deb Andrews is here. So we will proceed with our agenda. First item is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Any comments or changes needed?
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have approved our minutes from our November meeting. We did not meet as a committee in December of 2024. Moving on to comments and suggestions. If there were any citizens present at this time, that would be their opportunity to come to the podium and address any concerns or point things out to us that they might be actively concerned about within the city. No one's present tonight, so we will move on to item 5, which is new business. And the first item under new business is approve the 2025 Public Works Committee meeting schedule. So we have received from Mr. Mraz the schedule for the year.
Yep, so Deb took the liberty and put this schedule together based on the meetings that are on the books for the Finance Committee and Common Council, make sure there's no conflicts. And so this is what we came up with. Obviously, we tried our best to do the second Monday of every month, kind of our normal standard schedule. However, there are some days where you had to push it back or forward. But this gives a general outline of the upcoming schedule for 2025.
Great, thank you. And we are a small and friendly committee, and so if one of our members asks for a schedule change, even a timing change, we've tried to accommodate that so that we could all participate as much as possible. So any comments from yourself, sir?
No, as of now, I don't have any conflicts. So
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to approve it as
And
is.
I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have approved this meeting schedule for 2025. I have a feeling this meeting's going to go really, don't you
That's all
think?
right.
I mean, we
That's
got
all
ahead of
right.
steam.
Yeah,
Usually we're,
You're doing good.
we could order a pizza and pick it up in a half hour at the rate we're going. Okay, don't dilly-dally, Joy.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Okay, the second item under new business is discussion, possible action to approve a letter of engagement with the SEH engineering firm to develop a SWPPP for the 2101 O'Neill Road.
Yep, and I'll take this one. So the SWPPP that Joy referenced is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. So per our MS4 permit, the city is required to have a stormwater pollution prevention plan for facilities that house chemicals, salts, any type of stock materials like crushed rock, sand, so on and so forth. And so when the city first became a MS4 community, SEH was brought on board, and as part of our kind of initial stormwater management plan, they had put together a SWIP for several of our facilities throughout the community, the West Shop, the East Public Works Shop, Ward Avenue. And so now that we are moving into the new facility on 2101 O'Neill Road, the DNR, when they did our audit here recently, they are requiring us to do a SWIP for that facility as well. So with that being said, I did reach out to SEH just because they have history with working within the city. Eric Henningsgaard helped us with the last go around. He's still on staff. He was with the DNR. He knows the ins and outs with stormwater. He is very, very good. And so they gave us an LOE, letter of engagement, in the amount of $7,900 to put together the SWIP for us. And it's a one-time fee. It's basically once they come in, look at the facility, put the SWIP together, then we basically have it on hand. And what happens then is city staff then basically implements the SWIP. So we're checking, we're inspecting, we're doing that reporting for our MS4 permit annually. And so it's a one-time cost. So with that being said, staff is recommending approval. We would take the money, or we would pay for the expense out of the stormwater utility.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Any questions or discussion?
Nope, it just sounds like something that comes with the territory of the new building and doing it the right way, so
Sure.
I'll move to approve.
And I second that. With further discussion, I did want to just ask you a question. So even though we aren't occupying the building yet and the construction changes have not happened,
Yep.
they're going to look at the site. So some of it is what, drainage or
Yep.
angles or?
Yep, so they'll look at grading, they'll look at, they'll look at what we're gonna be doing out there, right? The grading plan and the slopes, and they'll see where like the water's gonna be draining on the north side and the south side, and like what measures we need to put in place to contain material or salt runoff. Obviously, it being enclosed, which is a requirement, helps. But yeah, that's kind of the general gist, the fuel island. I'm trying to think of what else we do currently up at our shop. So like we have the sweeper washout, and there's, language in the SWIP for that and what we're required to do and report. So stuff like that.
Sure.
Yep.
So partly it's also guidance to make sure, and probably helps your staff once you get moved in.
Yeah.
To know all those protocols, not that they're not all very well versed in it. Other question is just in general, am I correct that the city of Hudson, because of our population growth, we hit a certain level where we're under more regulatory inspection, if you will, from DNR? Is that correct with our stormwater or?
So I wouldn't say more, it's just once we became a population of 10,000 people or over, that's kind of the threshold. That's when DNR requires a community to become an MS4 permittee, which allows us to discharge into natural bodies of water. And so because we are obviously on the St. Croix and Lake Malibu, and we hit that threshold, the DNR required us to pull that permit. And then with that permit, there are several requirements that we need to meet as a city, whether it's public education, maintenance of the system, sweeping, and those are kind of the things that the SWIP for our facilities. So those are some of the items that we're required to report every year in the city. Obviously, I keep data throughout the year, how much salt we use, how much, street sweepings we sweep up, and that's basically submitted to the DNR for their review every year. Just make sure that we are meeting the requirements that are in our MS4 permit to make sure that our local bodies of water aren't impaired by the city.
Sure, so it's, of course, very important to us because of the St. Croix, but we are needing to do that because of the population size, though, as we're a larger city.
Yep.
And even, so we have a stormwater utility, even though you have key employee running that, you supervise and do all the paperwork, or does that individual?
Yep,
your
no,
staff
so I've been doing a majority of the paperwork for the permit. I am starting to include him more and more. Like last year, he helped me fill out the annual report. I'll do the same thing this year.
Great.
He helps keep track of sumps that are cleaned, how many linear feet of jet line. He does our construction site inspections. Anything over an acre needs to be inspected regularly by a trained, inspector, so he does that. So he's been doing a lot of the legwork. He collects a lot of the data, and then him and I meet. We'll probably start doing that here in the month of February, because that's due March 31st, put together that application. But I've been trying to include him more and more and more into it so that someday he would do it on his own.
Sure.
Yep.
That sounds great. Very good. Okay, well, we have a motion and a second that we approve this letter of engagement with SEH to the amount of $7,900 to develop this stormwater pollution prevention plan. I'm so proud of
Good.
myself. I practiced that. Okay, and so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is approved. And then does that go through council for
It'll go-
final?
yeah, it'll go to
for
finance and council. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next item is discussion and possible action on amending Chapter 212, which is streets and sidewalks, of our municipal code of the city of Hudson regarding the underground sprinkler and irrigation systems.
Yes, I will be taking this one.
Thank you.
So the background on this is when we come in and do a construction project in the public right of way, so say we're reconstructing a street, ripping out the curb and gutter, a lot of the times we will encounter someone's personal property irrigation. So, you know, a lot of people still irrigate their boulevard or right up to the curb and gutter, even though, you know, there's a certain distance that's, you know, dedicated to the public. So it came up this year, you know, it comes up on most projects basically, and it didn't seem like we had a consistent way of kind of dealing with it here. So does the property owner pay? Do we want to include it as part of our project scope and have the contractor repair anything that they damage and then the city pays for it? I've kind of seen it both ways in like other communities, but we did reach out to some communities in Wisconsin, and a lot of them have it either in their code or they have like a permit for irrigation saying anything you put in the right of way is at your own risk, and you're responsible for repairing it or removing it if asked for like a public improvement to come in. So so there's two things we could do, and so I have drafted something that we could just put in our code, chapter 212, that's streets and sidewalks. So that kind of handles any like encroachments in the right of way. That's kind of the section. Some other communities have something like this in it. And we wouldn't require a permit or anything. That's just something that realistically no one's gonna do. So why even try to have a permit for it and track it? You know, that's just a lot of time and energy. So essentially, before a construction project, you know, we can kind of state that this is the case and that the homeowner would be or, you know, business, whatever property it is, would be responsible for repairs or getting it out of the way in advance. And so that would be right in our code that we can just approve through council and get it right in the code. And then the second option is we do pay for the repairs as part of the project expenses if it's encountered. So sometimes you know, we don't know if there's gonna be irrigation and you'll just hit it. The contractor will. And so usually they'll subcontract out like an irrigation company and then would just bill us, and we can include like a contingency item basically in our design plans. Like I'd probably do, you know, $5,000 or $10,000 in the contract to cover things like that. So those are kind of the two ways to do it, and we thought it would just be nice if we kind of decided on which way the city wants to take with that.
Okay. So you have, and thank you for the red letter document, that's always helpful.
Yes.
For us to see that way, what you have written is that the homeowner, the property owner
Yes.
would be responsible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you've listed, if I'm not mistaken, the exceptions under B are actually a list of things that a property owner might do.
Yes,
But
yep.
they-
But don't need a permit.
They don't need a permit for it. They
Yeah.
might do that, but then also sort of buyer beware.
Yes.
They may run into it. That's how it's presented.
Yeah, so some communities are like, you can't have irrigation in the right of way, and I just feel like realistically, no one, first of all, is probably gonna follow that, cause you know, people want their yards to look nice all the way to the curb usually, if they decide to do irrigation, so,
It's just for us as staff, we just, especially as we're coming upon the upcoming construction season, like Aaron said, we really don't have anything on the books right now that is black and white. And it's
Sure.
been case by case, and there's been difficult conversations that we've had to have with property owners and a lot of arguments, and we just need to have something in writing, whether it's in our code or break permit, that we can just show. The problem is like Aaron said, the majority of property owners aren't even gonna know that this exists until it's actually encountered. So, I mean, that's a difficult part, right? But we just wanna have the conversation here, just to try to put something in motion, where we can, once and for all, kind of land on something so we have something to follow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Comments?
thank you. I like how it's written. I agree. Nobody, sort of like potholes, they don't really care about them until they hit one or it's in front of their house. And the idea that a lot of people may not be aware of exactly the boundary or whatever,
Yeah.
but responsible citizens should say, hey, I'm gonna invest a couple $1,000s in my irrigation system. What can I do? What should I do? What tricks can I do to avoid this situation? And yeah, I think it has to be. It seems like a lot of times when we talk about subjects like this, our goal is, which is a good goal to have, is take those individual conversations about unique situations that happened in the past and just black and white it. And
Yeah.
this kind of makes it that, you know, if you want to burrow under the sidewalk and put some sprinklers, and for 10 years it works great, but then when we come and widen that street and it gets ripped out, the city's not gonna take care of that. So I think that that's fair to all. That's a risk you take. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I like this where it's putting the burden back on the homeowner for placing items on, in the area that might get.
Right away.
Otherwise, we're gonna be what if I wanna put a fountain and you didn't replace the fountain correctly, I want it redone, and,
Yeah,
no.
that-
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that
That's-
too, yeah.
that's
the
happening.
whole
Yeah.
liability,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, and with the way, the nature of how Hudson has grown up with neighborhood here and there and different changes in
Right.
older parts of town, right? We don't even know what we might run into.
All right,
Yeah.
exactly.
On any given project, so it'd be very hard to budget additional, and yes, just knowing that we're trying to make every dollar count for our infrastructure,
Yeah.
for those common purposes that benefit everyone. So I do agree, I thought you very well stated, Mr. Kennedy.
well,
Thank you.
and with that, if I can add, I'll keep going if I'm on a roll.
Sure,
I
do.
don't get
Let's
complimented
go.
very often, I'm just kidding. When we redo a major section and we're bringing in sidewalks that never were there, or something like that, I mean, the city has communication with those particular homeowners,
Yes,
correct?
yep.
So maybe, again, as a nicety, but a kind of a heads up that
Yes.
if you have a mailbox, or you just planted a cute little tree, or you put it, if there's irrigation there, that might become victim of this new project. Just sort of
Yeah.
a heads up, because not everyone reads every single code, so.
Yeah, I will say Aaron's done a great job as far as communicating with the public, project schedules, what the right of way is, what's allowed in the
Okay,
right of way,
good.
what's not, what's the homeowner's responsibility, what's the city's, and trying to get out ahead of some of these things so that it's not like the contractor's ripping up someone's hostas and they're like, what's going, so.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Try to get
Yeah.
out ahead of a lot of the headaches.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll literally hang door hangers,
Oh, okay.
on like Green Street. It's a lot, it's a good solution to just get information out quickly. And usually we'll always do something at the start of construction, and that's kind of where I'll say a bunch of things. And that's, most people read those because it's a little
Yeah.
bit unique.
Yeah, I like that idea of the door hanger, because some people are renting their home,
Yeah,
but
yep.
yet they're landscaping
Yes.
and they've invested in the gardening and so on.
Yep.
And so when it's right on the door, they get that message versus it being mailed to the property owner,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in case they are a renter. So that sounds great, and I do appreciate your effort at communicating. I'm always amazed how many contacts, phone calls, emails that all the staff sitting here, that we appreciate your work, because I know it takes a lot of time out of your day, and hard to always budget that amount of time too, because you don't know when you're going to get a ton of phone calls and inquiries. But okay, any other comments, or should we move for approval?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, and I second. So we have a motion to amend the chapter 212 for underground sprinkler and irrigation systems. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. It has passed, and now we will send it on to the council for their full approval as well. Thank you. The next item under new business, we would like to have a discussion and possible action to approve the letter of engagement with SEH, and same engineering firm again, to assist the city with the 2025 RAISE planning grant for Carmichael Road.
So this one is mine as well. So the RAISE grant, it's a federal grant for larger projects. And, we have been talking about Carmichael Road, specifically kind of the section between Cooley and Vine as far as pedestrian and bicycle safety. We also know, and have a Carmichael corridor study recommending that the whole road gets widened to 4 lanes, with median. And so in the past, we have applied, I think only once, for a RAISE just planning grant for Carmichael Road. And, we have another one coming up. January 30th is the due date, and I was just thinking it would be a good opportunity and timing to just try to go in for the planning grant again. We do have the application from a few years ago, but I spoke with SEH's kind of grant writing experts, and they had some good ideas for kind of I would say rehabbing the existing grant application and making it like really shine as far as a planning grant goes. And so, you know, they came up with a scope and they have time to help us before January 30th. So I'm looking to kind of approve this LOE here for $16,000. The only thing I didn't have in our issue sheet, so we were just talking internally about, you know, well, where would these funds come from? We don't really have like a Carmichael Road project. The Hagan Street Bridge, existing funds have kind of been going towards grant applications for the Hagan Street Bridge. So we thought there's $73,000 left in kind of that account. So we would take it out of there, or propose to take it out of those funds essentially, to cover that. And then hopefully, you know, since they are revamping the application, maybe we could, you know, then use that even moving forward for other future applications if we didn't get this one. And so the grant specifically would just be for planning, so it wouldn't be for construction, but it would be like public engagement, it would go through final design, the environmental process, all of that. So I'm thinking all of those efforts would be 2.3 million, and the raise grant would cover 80% of that. So, you know, we'd still have to put in $500,000 if we got this, but I think, you know, it's a very important corridor, and we probably, you know, need to start looking at doing things, and I think this could be a good opportunity to get some funds to start doing that.
Thank you for clarifying. And if I could ask a question to clarify about the Hagan Street, because I did have a brief discussion with Mike, our Public Works Director, earlier, that, am I correct that that was capital improvement funds from several years ago, what we call our CIP?
Yep.
That we voted for and actually bonded for a certain amount of money so that we could pursue. I mean, these are two major roads that we have great concern about for safety and functionality and traffic flow in our community. So there was quite an effort done for Hagan Street, and a significant amount of money set aside just for approving, you know, getting some plans going and trying to get a grant.
Yep, so back in
Okay.
2021, the council at the time bonded for $325,000 for Hagan Street Bridge. And the reason being is obviously these projects that we're referencing, whether it's Hagan Street or Carmichael Road, are large projects, right? They're $10 to $15 million projects. You know, so the city itself probably won't. We need to have outside funding, right, from the federal government to help with to make these projects a reality. While the federal government requires municipalities many times to have a shovel-ready project, right? It can't just be, oh, we hope that we can get some money for it, right? They got to make sure that the community is invested in these projects, that they will support the match, so on and so forth. So that being said, the city has to kind of put one foot forward, bring in consultants, design the project, get at least 60% plans completed, and then those plans are used in the application process. Without those plan sets, you're wasting your time on these federal grants. So that's kind of the catch-22 that we find ourselves in, is like, and I know we had this conversation a couple of meetings ago as far as, you know, we've applied for several grants, whether it's on Carmichael Road or Hagan Street Bridge, and, you know, some have fared better than others, but nothing has crossed the finish line, so to speak. And it comes a point where, do we want to continue to do this? Obviously, they are very important to our community, and we'll continue to apply for these grants if the budget is there, and then the Public Works and Council sees that that is something of need. So that's why it's here tonight. Obviously, this is due the end of this month, this grant, this raise grant, this next round. So time is of the essence. If you're not comfortable with it, obviously, I'm sure there'll be future raise grant opportunities available. And like I said, we'll continue to apply for grants for Hagan Street Bridge as well. So the one other thing to note is the grants that we've been applying for that we've kind of honed in on are the raise grant and the BIP, the Bridge Improvement Program grant. And obviously, the Bridge Improvement Program, that's kind of where we've steered Hagan Street Bridge. We did apply a couple times for the raise for Hagan Street, but some of the feedback that we got at the time from kind of our debriefs is like, this BIP is more of a better program for that project. So we've kind of, based on the debriefs that we've had with the feds, and their grant review teams, is like, you know, they're trying to help us along A lot of times too, these grants come down to, support from our local elected officials, not just at the city level, but, the region level, the state level. And so we've been reaching out to our local representatives to try to get them to support our projects during these processes too. So, having said that, I'm done talking.
Yeah. All right, well, no, thanks for explaining that further, because it is true, it's not that we're taking funds away or shorting that bridge project. You've gotten some advice that, we do have this money that the council approved several years ago, and so we probably, in a way, it is our duty to keep following that or spend it, unless we thought it was completely waste, but we're still hopeful. We
Yeah.
have some new ideas, so.
Yeah.
So I move that we go ahead and approve that letter of engagement with SCH so that they can assist with the 2025 RAISE planning grant for Carmichael Road.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Anything further you would like to say?
Even though I just seconded it, my question does, I'll just throw it out there. With that deadline, are we to write that $16,000 check and just, in 3 weeks, we're done? Are we gonna be are they, I should say they, it sounds like a term paper that's due and,
Right.
Yeah.
we gotta work over the weekend on this thing and hopefully,
Good point.
is that investment, let's say I'm assuming you guys as a team will do a great job. We'll pay that dollar amount. If we don't get that, does this have any life after that 16,000, or do we burn that up and next time we think we need some more assistant?
I think there's some value, we talked with a range of pricing with them, and with what we talked about, and I feel like their team had a lot of great ideas to really, update the application in a way that I think we could move forward with other grant applications, probably using that as a base and probably not need as much help in the future, especially for like a planning grant. When you get into like the RAISE grant construction, you have to go through all these complicated like benefit cost analysis, and that type of stuff takes a lot of time. So it kind of just depends on the other possibilities for grant applications and what their application materials look like. But I do think there will be a benefit from having kind of their revamp of, new explanations. We're going to talk about economic development, and this is really, it's stuff a little bit more out of just engineering wheelhouse. So I think there's a lot of benefit in getting their perspective on it, even moving forward. So I don't think it's just going to necessarily be, we do this, we don't get the grant, and that's it. I think there's a lot of value.
You guys, you've got a lot of time and effort
it's-
invested in this.
And this, this is kind of the max. So say I do more and they do less, or like they get it done faster than they thought, they're just gonna bill us the time that they spend on it up to this amount. So
Okay.
we're just approving
So
this
that's
as
sort
like
of
the
a cap,
max.
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the cap.
But
We
it-
might not necessarily.
I
If
hear
we
what
get
you're
it, we'll
saying,
pay 'em
though, is
16.
can we get a quality product
Yeah.
in this short of time? But it sounds like you've already had numerous discussions.
Yeah.
They know Hudson well, they know that
Yeah.
road. Will they actually be doing traffic counts or anything like that?
There's already actually, so we did the Carmichael signal timing recently.
Yes, yeah.
So, and actually SEH was part of that project. And so we have some updated traffic counts, so I don't think they'll need to go out there, but yeah, I
It was
think
just
there's a.
done at Sophia and Carmichael.
But we
right.
actually timed the whole corridor.
Okay.
So we had
That's fresh,
counts.
that's ready to go.
Yeah.
So,
we have
again,
some updated data.
this is their specialty, or
Yeah.
the team that we will be
Yeah.
engaging.
Yep.
Okay, and I know some of these grant applications are like stacks of paper.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
thank you. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have moved and approved the letter of engagement with SEH for the RAISE planning grant. Okay, next item is old business. Anything, we don't have anything noted on our agenda. Project update, the Public Works Facility update, 2101 O'Neill Road is the address of our future Public Works facility.
Yeah, so just wanted to keep everybody in the loop as far as the process and where we're at in getting into that building. So, there's, just to let you know, the racking is all down.
Okay.
So it's going in there, it looks a lot different, obviously. We're trying to line up a time where the company that purchased it come in and grab it all. But in the meantime, now that it's down, we kind of get a better sense of the overall feel. And so we've made a couple of minor adjustments. We're moving one overhead door over one bay, and another one over one bay, just for the long-term viability of the building. So there's a couple last-minute changes to like some of the project scope. Not that it's going to affect the budget by any means, it's just shifting some things around. So Cedar Corp is working through kind of finalizing their plans. They came up and measured this last Friday in the mezzanine area. If you remember, it's an enclosed office space. We're having them include a couple windows for staff to look out. That was one of the requests that staff had. And so they came and measured it. So a couple of those items. But anyways, they're going to be finishing up those plans. I am going to be bringing forward a architectural set to Planning Commission in February for them to review and approve, or have any comments and hopefully approve. And then the same thing goes with the St. Croix Business Park board. So they'll review the same architectural set just to make sure that we're meeting all the requirements out there that they have. And so that'll happen over the next couple of weeks. And then once that is finalized, we are pretty much ready to bring it forward to council. The plan is to bring it forward on March 3rd. I believe is the first,
The first meeting in March.
Yep, the first meeting in March for council review and then authorize ad for bid. And then KA will take it from there. They will bid the project, probably receive bids late March, which will be reviewed at Public Works Committee, the first meeting in April, and then bring it to council thereafter. So it's gonna go by pretty quick, and fingers are crossed. I think the market is still in our favor based on some of the conversations that I've had with KA, and so we're gonna be hitting it. I'm hopeful that we're gonna time this correctly, and we're gonna get some really good pricing. So fingers crossed, but that's kind of the timeline that right now. Any questions?
Great.
Okay.
No, but thank you for that update, and I'm glad, people are still processing and thinking it through. It's a little different project than a new construction, and, you look at that and you think, how could this work better?
Yeah.
So it's good that, that's still being penciled and
in
thought
fact-
out while we have time.
Yeah, just one quick anecdote is by moving that garage bay, our garage door, overhead door access over one bay, we're actually saving some funds because it originally was gonna replace a huge window, and there was a huge transfer switch that was gonna have to be taken off, so we can just kind of leave that alone, so it actually kind of will save us
Great.
some money in the long run.
And
So,
be more functional.
Yeah,
or serve
exactly.
your purposes.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. The next project update then is regarding the existing, what is affectionately known as the East Garage and the West Garage. You've provided the street address here, because I believe it was Councilmember Sarah Brook that had brought that forward at our last meeting, wondering, if and when the time comes that the
Yeah.
city is able to sell those properties, for potential redevelopment, do we have an idea of what they might be worth?
Yep.
Their value?
Yep. So, the community development director, I spoke with him, and he goes, "Well, they're worth whatever somebody's going to pay for it." So it's like, yeah, that's true. But anyways, I did reach out to Bomar. They do a lot of work within the city of Hudson, and they kind of gave us some rough numbers. And so there's actually three parcels total. One on the east side, and then there's two parcels on the west side that make up that property. And so between the three parcels, we're anywhere between 600 to 700. And this was right after, yeah.
So, pardon me, say that again, the two that are on the west side are worth,
So total, out of all three of them.
All three of them.
All three of them put together, between $600 and $700.
$1,000?
Yep.
Right,
Yep,
okay.
of value, as they stand right now.
Okay.
Based on the current market.
And speaking of as that stands, does that mean we take everything out of there, maybe sweep it and just
Yep, put
turn
it
off
on
the
the
lights
market.
and leave?
Yep.
Okay, we don't have to do any reclamation or removal of, okay.
Right. Now, obviously,
Sure.
when we do become more serious, we will absolutely have to reach out to some local agencies to make sure that we're good on our end when we sell it, as far
Right,
as,
right.
disclosing what we, there's a lot of legal stuff that
Sure,
I
right.
probably can't speak on, but definitely we'll have to involve our legal team and local agencies when we do decide to pull the pin on selling those properties.
Just because there's been mechanical bays and whatever,
Yep,
potential
yep.
for chemical or oil.
A lot of people
whatever.
know what was the West shop, what was over there, and the bus garage, so there's things that I'm sure we'll have to look at.
Sure.
But I don't know if you can disclose in a sale, sold as is and kind of list what, I
Yeah.
don't know how that works, but definitely
Yeah.
we'll have
Right.
to look at it.
Okay.
Sure. Yes, and so that's just a general idea.
General idea.
Because we, again, we're relocating to a more central part of the city, which is going to provide more service to the community, or more prompt and more efficient use for your staff and all of our equipment. And that we are hoping that then at some point the city can divest of those two properties. So, thank you, appreciate that as a general idea for us. Okay, and the last item now, communications or items that someone would like to place for future agendas. Is there anything there to be brought up?
O'Neill Road?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as an update, because there's only one meeting in February, it's February 3rd.
Yes.
We're working hard on the plans, and I'm going to try to get them on the February 3rd council meeting to approve for bidding.
Okay.
So we won't really have a chance to look at them separately here, but that's really just, otherwise I have to wait till March before I can even get it out to bid. And so, in my mind, that's just kind of waiting too long, so I'm just gonna push it right to council at the beginning of February, here in a few weeks. And, the bid opening, I kind of wrote down a schedule, but, I think we'd look to approve it then, in March or maybe the beginning of April. So, yeah.
Go out for bid in
Yeah, go
March
out.
and then you give usually 2 to 3 weeks.
We'll go
for
out to,
people.
we'll go out to bid in February, probably mid, but then I give 2 to 3 weeks for the contractors, so we'll probably open it at the beginning of March and then, approve whenever the next council meeting would be after that.
Sure.
So.
Thank you.
Yep, I guess the bigger update on that is we are gonna be doing the trail actually on the west side instead of the east side, so the side that the Public Works facility is on. And that's more, once we dove into the design and actually have been communicating with some of the utility companies, that seems like the best option now with grading. The east side had a little more grading constraints that we were having trouble kind of staying within the right-of-way with tying in slopes. And then Excel has some bigger transformer boxes that would be a lot more difficult to relocate. And on the west side, it's a little bit easier to relocate some of the utilities, and the grading is a lot flatter, so it ended up just working out a little bit better from a design perspective.
So that's something new, because there has
Yeah,
not
because we
been
were
a
thinking
pedestrian
it'd be,
trail.
yeah, yep, and so, yep, no pedestrian trail, and
So you're designing that, and again, if you and your staff, you and Maverick are doing the work on that.
yes.
So,
yep,
right.
yeah.
I understand that, so in other words, we won't have a chance to discuss it here, but we'll discuss it in council, and that way we can expedite.
Yeah.
So, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Just for
Okay,
efficiency and getting a
Right.
good bid.
yeah. It's still a pretty straightforward project,
And we have
the road's
discussed
gonna
it.
look the same, just better pavement.
A lot better.
Yeah, it better not look the same.
Well, right. Oh, another random update though, speaking of the engineering department, Maverick, the senior engineering tech, he did pass his professional engineer exam recently, so that's
Yay.
really
That's
exciting for
wonderful.
him, yeah.
That's wonderful.
So, yeah,
Nice. So he won't be called an engineering tech, he'll be
Yeah,
a
so
PE,
we'll-
right? Is
yep.
that the initials? Okay,
yep,
great.
I'll have to start saluting them whenever I
Right,
see them.
exactly.
That means,
He's
Mr.
got those letters behind his name, it's very dangerous. Right, no, that's great, I know he's a great asset to our staff here.
Yep.
And again, as I've said before, I appreciate that you're able to do the engineering and design for this, because it's always amazes me how much it costs to hire and engage your engineering firm for a project. It is expensive, so it's helpful. So thank you for your work on that. Any other comments or anything from anyone tonight?
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, and I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you so much.